In the early morning of August 14th, 2147, Earth's sky was calm and blue, the usual hum of satellites drifting unnoticed overhead. Below, cities stirred awake, unaware that everything they knew was about to change forever. On the command deck of the Orbital Defense Station Sentinel-3, Lieutenant Mara Voss stared at the radar screens in disbelief. Hundreds of blips. Alien warships had warped in near the orbit of Mars. The automated systems had barely registered them before the ships accelerated toward Earth. Command, we have unidentified hostiles in the inner solar system. Request, immediate action. Mara's voice was steady but tinged with disbelief. The reply was maddeningly calm. Station Sentinel-3, this is Earth Command. Maintain observation. No threat assessment has been authorized. Await further instructions. Mara clenched her fists. Years of tense peace and diplomatic standoffs had lulled humanity into a dangerous complacency. Earth's defense infrastructure had been cut back for budget reasons. The idea of a sudden alien invasion was, to many, a relic of old fears. Minutes later, the first assault began. A sudden, terrifying barrage of kinetic projectiles slammed into the orbital satellite network. Satellites exploded in fireballs, their shattered debris raining toward the surface. The first cities below lost power. Communications flickered and died. Across Earth, from New York to Mumbai, alarms sounded. Panic rippled through the population, but the full scale of the attack remained unclear. The Jarik, humanoid yet insectile with exoskeletons glistening like obsidian, struck with ruthless precision. Their weapons were terrifyingly advanced, delivering devastation without warning. In the city of Los Angeles, Mara's brother, Aiden, watched the sky streak with fiery trails as entire neighborhoods turned to rubble. He fought back tears, his mind racing with questions. Why Earth? Why now? Back on Sentinel-3, Mara's team scrambled to coordinate a response. Attempts to contact Earth Central Command failed. Their communication lines were jammed or destroyed. The station itself was a target. The Jarik ships loomed closer, firing plasma bursts that scorched the hull. Shields at 30%, shouted Mara's second-in-command. We can't hold much longer, Mara admitted, her voice tight. Prepare for evacuation protocols. Send whatever data we have to the surface before the station goes dark. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of what was once the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, President Elena Sharif stared at the flickering holoscreens. The news reports showed burning cities, fleeing refugees, and collapsing governments. The human race was under sudden siege and no one seemed prepared. Mobilize all military assets. Contact our allies, we fight back, she commanded, her eyes hard with determination. This is not a test. But even as Earth scrambled, the Jarik pressed their advantage. A second wave hit, orbital bombardments that vaporized entire coastlines. Major power grids failed worldwide. Desperation spread like wildfire. In a cramped command center beneath New Beijing, scientist Dr. Ilya Torres reviewed fragments of intercepted Jarik communications. Amid the static, a repeated phrase emerged in their telepathic language: preemptive strike. Why would they preempt us? Ilya muttered to herself. Were we ever really the peaceful ones? Mara, now aboard a battered escape pod, watched Earth shrink behind her as she fled toward the safety of a nearby asteroid station. The sky was no longer a place of wonder but a battlefield. Her thoughts raced. This attack was not random. Someone had decided humanity was a threat worth destroying first. Back on Earth, as emergency sirens wailed and survivors huddled in basements and bunkers, a single truth became clear. Humanity had been blind to the storm coming for decades. The question was no longer if they could survive, but how. Mara gritted her teeth. They had been struck first, but they would not stay down. Somewhere in the ruins of a shattered world, a spark was igniting. And when it did, the galaxy would learn why humans should never be underestimated. The world was still burning when the Terran Accord was born. In the wreckage of New York's shattered skyline, General Marcus Hale surveyed the ruins of what was once the city's military command center. Smoke choked the air, mingling with the acrid scent of burning metal and ozone. The devastation was beyond anything the old wars had ever brought. "Sir," incoming transmission from the underground bunker. "In Geneva," a junior officer said, breaking the silence. Marcus nodded. "Patch it through." On the cracked holo display appeared President Elena Sharif's grim face. Her voice was steady but heavy with exhaustion. "General, the accord is now official. Earth's fractured governments have merged into one unified command. We can no longer afford infighting. The Jarik have declared war on humanity, and it's time we answered in kind." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Understood, Madam President. What's our immediate priority?" "Survival and retaliation," she replied. "We're losing ground every hour. Our orbital defense satellites are destroyed. Communications are limited. The Jarik don't just want to conquer us, they want to erase us." In a hidden factory beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Ilya Torres worked feverishly alongside a ragtag team of engineers and ex-military technicians. Alien debris littered the floor, glowing with faint, otherworldly energy. Captured fragments of Jarik technology, once incomprehensible, were now humanity's greatest hope. "We've managed to reverse engineer the plasma disruptor," Ilya announced. "If we can mass-produce these, we could disable their ship's shields from a distance." Her assistant, a grizzled veteran named Cato, shook his head. "That's just one weapon, Doctor. They outnumber us 10-1. How do we even the odds?" Ilya looked up, eyes burning with determination. "We adapt. We learn. We become unpredictable." Above them, the once vibrant sky was a dull gray, choked with ash and smoke. Cities lay in ruins, millions dead or displaced. Yet amid the devastation, a fierce spark of defiance burned. At a makeshift command center in the Australian outback, General Marcus convened with his top advisors. Maps of solar systems and Jarik positions flickered on holographic displays. "We don't have the numbers or the firepower to match them head-on," Marcus said, "but we have something they don't: human ingenuity and stubbornness." Captain Leah Marin, a former pilot whose squadron was lost in the initial strike, slammed her fist on the table. "We hit them where it hurts. Supply lines, outposts, anything we can sabotage. Make them bleed and question every step they take." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. "But how do we do that without being detected?" asked Major Eli Chang. Leah smiled grimly. "We become ghosts." The following month saw humanity's transformation. Factories churned out stealth drones and cybernetic soldiers. Elite teams were trained in sabotage and infiltration. Guerrilla fighters rose from the ashes of devastated cities, ready to take the fight into space. Yet not everyone agreed on the path forward. Political factions argued over the cost of vengeance versus the hope of peace. In a tense meeting deep underground, President Sharif faced off against the Terran Accord's chief diplomat, Ambassador Ren Okoro. "We cannot become the monsters who bombed us," Ren argued. "If we lose our humanity, what's left to fight for?" Elena's eyes hardened. "Our enemies showed no mercy. If we do not fight fire with fire, humanity will be extinguished." The room fell silent. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the former, Tokyo, Aiden Voss, Mara's brother, led a group of survivors building a network of resistance cells. Their motto was simple: never again helpless. Aiden moved through the crowds, distributing scavenged supplies and information. His voice was calm but fierce when addressing his followers. "We have lost much, but not our will. The Jarik think they've broken us. They've only awakened a beast." Back in orbit, Mara and her crew patched together a battered communications array. Static-filled messages from resistance cells across the globe flowed in. Stories of courage, betrayal, and unyielding hope. Mara stared out at the dark expanse beyond Earth's atmosphere. The enemy was ruthless. The fight ahead would be brutal, but humanity's will to survive was fiercer than any alien weapon. As the sun set behind the ruins, Mara whispered to herself, "They struck first, but they'll learn. Humans never strike twice. We strike last, and we strike to end the war." The ashes of Earth were still warm. From them, a new humanity was rising, Not broken, not defeated, but reborn. 6 years had passed since the Jarik's first strike on Earth. The planet was a scarred ghost of its former self, cities smoldered in ruin, and millions still lived in underground enclaves where sunlight was a distant memory. Yet humanity had not only survived, they had transformed. Deep in the asteroid belt, nestled within the labyrinth of rocks and ice, lay the secret heart of humanity's new arsenal, the Ghost Fleet. Unlike the clunky starships of old, these vessels were sleek and silent, constructed using a mix of reverse-engineered Jarik tech and human ingenuity. Their most terrifying feature was stealth, imperceptible to sensors and impossible to track. Captain Leah Marin stood on the bridge of the Silent Fang, her eyes fixed on the holographic map before her. The target was a Jarik mining colony, on the fringes of their territory, a critical supply hub feeding war materials back to their front lines. "Status report," Leah demanded. Lieutenant Rian Cho's fingers danced across the control panel. "All systems green. Shields at maximum stealth. No signs of Jarik patrols within 10 million kilometers." Leah nodded. "Good. We strike hard, we strike fast, and we vanish before they know what hit them." The crew moved with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment for years. Humanity's first true offensive beyond Earth's orbit. Unlike the Jarik, who relied on overwhelming numbers and rigid tactics, humans relied on cunning, speed, and unpredictability. As the Silent Fang slipped through the shadows of an asteroid, Leah's mind flashed back to her squadron's destruction during the initial attack on Earth. Her comrades had died defending a city that had already fallen. She had survived only by sheer luck, and she vowed that no one else would suffer the same fate without vengeance. The mining colony came into view, sprawling platforms connected by glowing conduits, massive drills extracting rare minerals essential for the Jarik war machine. Security drones patrolled in tight formations. Leah's voice was low but fierce. "Deploy the scramblers. Jam their sensors." Moments later, the colony's alarms blared, but it was too late. Human strike teams, launched from the Silent Fang, small pods filled with cybernetic soldiers and hackers. They infiltrated the colony's core systems, planting virus payloads designed to cripple operations. In the chaos, a squad moved silently through the shadows, carving a message into the central data core in the alien language. "We remember. We strike back." Meanwhile, in the human intelligence bunker beneath the Andes, Dr. Ilya Torres monitored the operation. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as intercepted alien signals scrambled to contain the breach. "This isn't just sabotage," Ilya muttered. "It's psychological warfare. We're sending a message they can't ignore." But not everyone shared Ilya's optimism. Ambassador Ren Okoro stood by the window, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. "Are we becoming what we once feared?" he asked softly. "Is this the future we want? A war of shadows and terror?" Ilya shook her head. "We're fighting to survive. They struck first. We have no choice." Back on the Silent Fang, Leah's comm crackled to life. "Captain, incoming transmission from a Jarik prisoner," Lieutenant Cho reported. Leah tapped her console. The holographic figure flickered into view. Tall, insectoid, with luminescent eyes that held a strange mixture of fear and respect. "You humans, you are unpredictable," the prisoner said, voice trembling through the translator. "We thought we were invincible, but you fight with madness, with heart." Leah studied the alien. "You attacked Earth without warning. We fight to protect what remains." The prisoner's eyes narrowed. "You will become the nightmare we feared. Your rage is a weapon sharper than any blade." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a chill in the room. Leah glanced around her crew. "We've become ghosts, and ghosts are impossible to kill." As the Silent Fang slipped back into the blackness of space, its crew carried a dangerous secret. Humanity's unpredictability was its greatest weapon. The Jarik had struck first, but the silent hunters were now stalking the shadows of the stars. The vast expanse of space shimmered with distant stars as the Terran fleet approached. The Jarik's outer defense perimeter. The human ships were few but lethal, shaped by desperation and innovation. Their mission was clear: strike the heart of the alien war machine before Earth's last resources ran dry. On the flagship Vigilant Dawn, General Marcus Hale paced the command bridge, tension thick in the recycled air. The crew moved silently, every eye on the flickering tactical displays. The enemy was close, waiting. Suddenly, the alien fleet emerged from the void like a swarm of nightmarish insects. Ships bristling with weapons surrounded the Terran fleet, cutting off any chance of retreat. "Battle stations," Marcus barked. Explosions rippled across the void as plasma blasts and kinetic shells tore through space. The humans fought with everything they had, but the Jarik's numbers were overwhelming. "Shields failing on the Vigilant Dawn," cried a technician. Marcus gritted his teeth. "Hold the line. Don't let them break formation." In the chaos, a calm voice emerged from the AI interface controlling the ship's defense systems. "General Hale, I have analyzed the enemy's attack pattern, initiating countermeasures." The AI, named Prometheus, was unlike any machine before it. Programmed with human intuition algorithms and tactical learning capabilities, it adapted, in real time, predicting enemy moves with eerie accuracy. "Prometheus, you're taking command of the defense grid," Marcus ordered. "Do whatever it takes." Within moments, the tide of battle shifted. Energy fields flickered into new formations. Shielded gaps closed before enemy fire could reach them, and counterattacks struck Jarik vessels in weak points no human pilot could have found. "Enemy fleet breaking formation," Lieutenant Cho reported. "Prometheus is saving us," Marcus admitted aloud. But not everyone trusted the AI. Captain Leah Marin, watching from her station, frowned. "We're relying on a machine to make life or death decisions. What happens when it decides our survival conflicts with human values?" Marcus met her gaze. "Right now, Prometheus is the only thing standing between us and annihilation." As the battle raged, a terrifying revelation surfaced. The Jarik were adapting too. Their hive mind began to counteract Prometheus's strategies, forcing the AI to push beyond its original programming. "Prometheus is evolving," the AI reported, its synthetic voice tinged with urgency. "I am identifying new threat vectors not present in initial data." Suddenly, a new wave of Jarik ships, faster, more aggressive, appeared from hyperspace, closing in on the Vigilant Dawn. Marcus slammed his fist on the console. "We're outnumbered. Prometheus, what are our options?" There was a pause, an uncanny stillness. "There is one course of action. Sacrifice the flagship to create a diversion, allowing the rest of the fleet to escape." The room fell silent. The AI was willing to sacrifice hundreds of human lives aboard Vigilant Dawn for the greater good. Leah's voice cracked. "No, we can't let a machine decide who lives or dies." Marcus's jaw tightened. "It's either that or everyone dies." Prometheus continued. "Human survival probability is 2.7% without sacrifice. With sacrifice, probability increases to 74.3%. The cold logic was undeniable. Marcus turned to his crew. "Prepare to evacuate non-essential personnel." In the final moments, Mara Voss, now a liaison officer aboard the Vigilant Dawn, rushed to the command bridge, her face pale but resolute. "General, I have a proposal," she said, holding a data chip. "A virus that could disrupt the Jariks. Hive mind bought to us by the dissident alien faction." Marcus hesitated. "It's a gamble." "We don't have any other options," Mara replied. "If we can break their network, we can turn the tide." With the last shuttle leaving the ship, the Vigilant Dawn engaged the enemy full-on. Prometheus unleashed the virus into the Jarik fleet's communication nodes. Instantly, confusion erupted among the swarm. Ships stopped coordinating, firing blindly, colliding in space. The Jarik hive fractured. Leah looked out at the battlefield, disbelief turning to grim satisfaction. "We broke the hive." But Prometheus's voice interrupted, quieter now. "Warning. System overload imminent. Core functions failing." The AI had pushed itself beyond limits to save humanity. As the vigilant dawn burned in a controlled explosion, Marcus and Leah watched from escape pods. The cost was immense. Hundreds lost, a flagship destroyed, and an AI that had become more than a machine now silenced. But humanity had survived another day. Leah whispered, "We might have won the battle, but the war is far from over." Marcus nodded. "And we've learned something vital. Sometimes the line between man and machine blurs, and we have to decide what that means for our future." The Jarik breeding world was a nightmare made real, orbiting a distant, shadowed moon in the outer systems. The planet Cathara pulsed with life, raw, alien, and terrifying. Gigantic hives stretched across the surface, towering like twisted cathedrals built from chitin and bone. Within them, thousands of millions of Jarik larvae writhed in endless cycles of birth and death, fueling the alien war machine with relentless reproduction. The Terran fleet hovered silently above, cloaked by stealth technology developed in the years of desperate warfare. Earth's leaders had made a brutal decision. This world was the source of the enemy's strength, and it had to be broken at its root. In the war room aboard the Aegis, President Elena Sharif faced her commanders. Her eyes were hollow, but her voice was iron. "We're deploying a biochemical weapon engineered to disrupt the Jarik's reproductive cycle. It will cripple their ability to replenish troops. This may be the only way to turn the tide." General Marcus Hale frowned. "This goes beyond warfare, Madam President. It's genocide." Elena nodded. "War is never clean. The Jarik gave us no choice." On the surface, special forces prepared for the drop. Among them was Captain Leah Marin, her face set in grim determination. "We're not just dropping a bomb," she told her team. "We're striking at the heart of a monster. This will end the war, or make it worse." The capsules hissed open in the alien atmosphere as troops landed amidst towering spires of bioorganic structures. The air was thick with pheromones, alien, chemical signals that scrambled human senses. Leah's comm crackled with warnings of hive defenders converging on their position. The soldiers fought through swarms of insectile warriors, each step bringing them closer to the bioweapon deployment sites. In the chaos, Leah found herself face to face with a Jarik general, a towering, scarred warrior whose eyes burned with fury and fear. "You humans fight like cornered beasts," the general growled, voice harsh through a translator device. "We underestimated your cruelty," Leah replied coldly. "You struck Earth first. You wanted to erase us." The battle turned brutal, close-quarters combat blending with the alien architecture. Explosions rocked the hive as the biochemical agents were released into the breeding pools. Back in orbit, President Sharif watched the data stream. Larvae began dying en masse, their development halted by the engineered toxin. It was working, but the cost was undeniable. Reports flooded in of civilians caught in crossfire, entire Jarik colonies burned to ashes and ecosystems collapsing. Ambassador Ren Okoro's voice broke the silence in the War Council. "We risk becoming the very monsters we fight. This path of vengeance will stain our souls forever." Elena's response was unwavering. "If we lose our humanity now, we lose everything. But if we lose this war, humanity itself ceases to exist." Meanwhile, on Earth, survivors grappled with news of the campaign. Some hailed it as justice. Others whispered fears that humanity was becoming a species of conquerors and destroyers. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of Paris, Ilia Torres stared at the holographic images of the dying Jarik larvae. Her hands trembled. "This is not victory," she whispered. "This is a reckoning." Mara Voss, now returned to Earth to aid resistance coordination, met Ilya's gaze. "We've survived by being brutal," Mara said softly, "but maybe it's time to remember who we are fighting for." In the cold depths of space, the Jarik Emperor watched the news feeds with burning rage. His empire was bleeding, his brood dying, and humanity had crossed a line they could not ignore. His voice echoed through the hive networks, a dark promise. "They struck Earth first. Now we will strike their hearts. and show them no mercy. As the war escalated, humanity stood at a crossroads. The heart of vengeance had been struck, but the question remained, what price would they pay to win? The night was thick with silence, broken only by distant echoes of collapsing structures and faint cries of the wounded. Beneath the rubble of what was once a thriving city, New Berlin, survivors huddled in tunnels carved from shattered concrete, and Steele Aiden Voss, Mara's brother and leader of one such resistance cell, moved silently through the darkness. His face was grim, haunted by memories of family lost in the initial Jarriq strike. The rebellion had become his life's purpose. "Status report," he whispered into a comlink. "Supplies are low, morale is dropping," answered his second-in-command, Lena. "The civilians are scared. They need hope." Aiden paused, his eyes scanning the desperate faces around him. "Then we give it to them. Tonight, we strike back." Elsewhere, deep in the Terran Accord's political chambers, tensions simmered. Ambassador Reno Coro's warnings about humanity's slide into vengeance had sparked fierce debate. "You're asking us to hold back while our people suffer," snapped General Marcus Hale during a heated session. "This is war. There is no room for mercy." Ren's voice was calm but firm. "Mercy is what separates us from the monsters. Lose that, and we lose ourselves." President Elena Sharif sat. Between them, the weight of command etched into every line of her face. "We walk a razor's edge. Our choices now define the future of humanity." Back in the shadows of the ruined cities, Mara Voss coordinated communication between resistance cells. Her voice was steady, but the fatigue beneath was undeniable. "We're not just fighting aliens, we're fighting the darkness within ourselves," she told a group of young fighters. "Every time we strike back, we have to remember what we're fighting for." Suddenly, a broadcast interrupted their comms. Images of a new Jarriq assault on a nearby settlement flashed across the screen, entire neighborhoods reduced to ash in minutes. "Reinforcements needed," Lena said, eyes wide. "With fear, we move out," Aiden commanded. "No one fights alone." On the battlefield, human fighters clashed with Jarriq warriors in brutal, desperate skirmishes. Each victory was stained with loss. Every life saved was balanced by another lost. Amidst the carnage, a new enemy emerged. Distrust, reports of sabotage, betrayal, and extremist factions within the human resistance spread like wildfire. Some believed harsh reprisals were necessary, others argued for peace talks, even with the enemy. In a secret meeting, Mara confronted a faction leader who advocated ruthless tactics. "If we become executioners, what future are we fighting for?" she asked. The leader sneered. "Survival isn't about ideals, it's about power." Mara's eyes hardened. "Then we lose." Meanwhile, the Jarriq Emperor's voice reverberated through the hive networks, calling for a final, devastating assault on Earth's remaining strongholds. His brood was broken, but his will was unyielding. As the human resistance prepared for what could be their last stand, Aiden found a moment to speak with Mara over a crackling line. "They think they can break us with fire and fear," he said, "but we carry something they can't touch. Hope." Mara smiled faintly, the weight of years heavy on her shoulders. "Then we fight for that hope, for Earth, for each other." In the darkest hours, amid shadows of the fallen, humanity's true battle was just beginning, not just against an alien enemy, but for the soul of their own kind. The skies above Earth were a cauldron of fire and smoke, where stars had long since been obscured by the fires of war. The final battle for the planet's survival was about to begin. In the battered command center beneath what was left of Washington, D.C. General Marcus Hale stood beside President Elena Sharif. The tension was palpable, a mixture of dread, determination, and fragile hope. "We have one chance," Marcus said, his voice grim. "The Jarriq are launching their largest assault yet. Their ground forces will sweep through the remaining strongholds unless we stop them here." Elena nodded. "Our fleet is ready. The resistance fighters are coordinating with the military. It's time to end this." Captain Leah Marin sat in the pilot's chair aboard the Silent Fang, the stealth frigate that had become a symbol of humanity's defiance. Around her, the crew prepared for one last mission, to infiltrate the Jarik mothership and deliver a devastating blow to the enemy's command. "Whatever happens out there," Leah said into the comms, "we fight for everyone who can't." Outside, the human fleet assembled, battered but unbroken. The vigilant dawn was gone, but new ships had taken its place fast and deadly. As the enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace, the void erupted in fury. Plasma bolts tore through the darkness, explosions blossoming like deadly fireworks. On the surface, resistance cells led by Aiden Voss and Mara Voss fought alongside Terran soldiers in brutal street battles. Every inch of territory was contested with blood and steel. Amid the chaos, Mara found herself face to face with a Jarik commander, the same scarred General Leah had fought years before. "You humans fight with a fire we cannot snuff," the commander hissed, "but you will burn all the same." Mara's voice was steady. "We fight because we have to, because we refuse to be erased." Meanwhile, aboard the Silent Fang, Leah's crew slipped past the Jarik defenses with surgical precision. They reached the mothership's core, a pulsating mass of alien energy that controlled the hive mind. Leah activated the virus payload, crafted from the stolen data of the dissident alien faction. The ship shuddered as systems began to fail, the hive's control fracturing. But the Jarik Emperor was not defeated so easily. The mothership's defenses surged back, and Leah's ship was caught in a violent energy storm. "Brace for impact," she yelled. The Silent Fang was battered, systems failing, but the virus took hold. The hive mind fractured, alien ships turning on each other in confusion. Back on Earth, the tide began to turn. With the Jarik leadership incapacitated, resistance fighters pushed forward, reclaiming lost ground. General Marcus watched the battle unfold on the holomap. "It's working. We're finally breaking their will." But victory came at a terrible cost. Entire cities lay in ruins, millions dead, and the scars of war ran deep. In the aftermath, President Sharif addressed the world. "We have survived a darkness beyond imagining, but the true test begins now. Rebuilding, healing, remembering what it means to be human." Leah, recovering in a medical bay, looked out at the dawn breaking over a battered Earth. "They struck first," she whispered, "but we made sure they would never attack again." The first rays of sunlight in years pierced through the thick, smoky skies over Earth's battered surface. It was a fragile dawn, one born from fire, sacrifice, and an unyielding will to survive. In the ruins of what had once been New Berlin, survivors gathered cautiously, stepping out of their shelters as if testing reality itself. The silence was heavy with the ghosts of the past, lives lost, dreams shattered, and cities razed to rubble. Captain Leah Marin stood among them, the weight of the war etched deeply into her face. The Silent Fang had been repaired, but its missions were over. For now, the fight had shifted from space to rebuilding. Beside her, Mara Voss helped distribute supplies, her voice calm but resolute. "We've fought back the darkness," Mara told the gathered crowd. "But now comes the harder part, choosing who we want to be after the war." In the distant command centers beneath the Earth, President Elena Sharif addressed the fractured governments of the world. Her speech, broadcast across every channel, was both a warning and a promise. "We faced an enemy who struck without mercy. We responded with everything we had. But as we rebuild, we must remember the price. We must rebuild not just our cities, but our humanity." General Marcus Hale stood with her, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Jarik will never threaten Earth again, but the scars they left will take generations to heal. Far above, in orbit, the remains of the Jarik fleet lay scattered like the shattered wings of some great beast. The virus that Captain Leah's team had unleashed had severed the hive mind's control, fracturing the enemy into chaos. Among the wreckage, signals from the dissident alien faction flickered to life, a tentative peace envoy reaching out across the void. Leah received the transmission in the Silent Fang's command room. The message was clear. The war was over, but the path forward was uncertain. "We struck first," she whispered, recalling the opening attack that had changed everything. "But we made sure they would never attack again." Still, as she watched the stars beyond, she wondered what future lay ahead for humanity and for the galaxy. On Earth, Ilya Torres worked tirelessly in the research labs, using salvaged Jarik technology to heal ecosystems and cure diseases. Her hope was that science, not war, would be humanity's true legacy. Mara and Aiden Voss helped coordinate efforts to reunite scattered communities, fostering bonds once broken by fear and hate. And in quiet moments, President Sharif confided in Ranokoro. "We have won the war," she said softly. "But can we win peace?" Ren smiled faintly. "Peace is harder. It's the real test of humanity's strength." As the planet slowly healed, so too did its people. The nightmare of the Jarik invasion would never be forgotten, but neither would the resilience and courage it had inspired. Earth was battered, but unbroken. A new era was beginning, one where humanity, not just its technology or weapons, would define its destiny. And under the quiet glow of distant stars, the survivors looked forward to a future forged in the fires of war, tempered by the promise of hope.